County Commissioners. I'm Commissioner Dave Strohmeyer. With us today is also Commissioner Juanita Vero, and hopefully Commissioner Josh Slotnick will be joining us soon. So we begin with a land acknowledgement. Missoula County acknowledges that this event today, even virtually, takes place in the Aboriginal territories of the Salish and Kalispel people. And Violet, if you could display the colors, we will say the Pledge of Allegiance together. And if you would like to join with me, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Violet. Are there any public announcements from staff or otherwise? Any public comment on items not on today's agenda? And this would be the time during which, if you have anything that's not otherwise listed on the agenda that you would like to make comment to the Board of County Commissioners on, you would be free to do so. Okay, seeing none. Our current claims list, and this would be claims received as of February 17th through February 23rd, 2021 by the Commissioner's Office, total $1,237,615.65. If you'd like more information on those claims, you can go to the electronic packet for today's meeting, the electronic agenda, and click on the current claims list, and you can then view everything that adds up to that amount. We have 4 public hearings today. We're going to take them slightly out of order since one of them is probably going to be quicker than some of the others. And so we're going to bump to the top O'Keefe Ranch Estate subdivision proposed amendments. This is a continuation from a public hearing that we opened a week ago and kept it open in order to make some additional adjustments. And I believe, Tim Worley, did you want to present us an update on where this all stands today?
Sure, thank you. Yeah, first of all, for O'Keefe Ranch Estates, this is the continuation of a request for adjustments to the preliminary plat as well as certain conditions of approval. I'd just like to do a little recap of the property itself. It's an 80-acre property, basically partitioned, if you will, into 9 different phases. 197 lots total. The initial preliminary plat approval goes back to 2005. So commissioners, last week we went through 8 distinct motions, and in those motions, the actions that you took include elimination of not the requirement, but the platting of short courts. You upheld a connection to the west and that adjacent property as part of one of the motions. You amended some parks maintenance RSID language. You allowed for the elimination of a landscaped median at the entrance of the subdivision. You upheld the current requirement for a 4-foot limitation on fence heights adjacent to common areas. And you permitted the elimination of certain common areas within O'Keefe Ranch Estates, and we talked about that, what those pieces were. You allowed for a common area drainage that was separated between lot 68 and 69 to actually be folded into those lots. And finally, you allowed for the elimination of a walkway adjacent to Waldo Road while retaining non-motorized access easement. The issue that came up at the end last week was the issue of high groundwater in the Y area and how it might impact this particular subdivision. It was an issue raised by the Water Quality District. We talked about should this be mitigated within this process? And Ron and Andy from PCI discussed that they, along with the applicant, are okay with basically a lot by lot approach to mitigating this issue. And that would be by way of a geotechnical analysis being undertaken on each lot. So after thinking about it and evaluating the situation, we feel this is justified as a new condition of approval. It would be condition number 29. There's currently 28 conditions. We think it's justified under the same section of the regulations that we're taking the plat adjustment and condition amendments through under. And it would involve a new note on the plat as well as changes to the subdivision covenants. And this is the language. It would be adding a section to the covenants and actually a notation to the face of the plat, acknowledging the high groundwater issue in the O'Keefe Creek area. So what's in quotes is really what will end up both on the face of the plat and in the covenants. And I'll just go ahead and read it. The O'Keefe Creek area is an area known for high groundwater. Therefore, each building site shall have a geotechnical evaluation completed to determine any measures needed to mitigate potential effects of high groundwater. Evidence of required mitigation or the lack thereof shall be submitted upon review of each land use zoning compliance permit. And this approved language shall not be amended or revoked without prior approval of the governing body as described in an amended version of the amendments section within the covenants. So how this will work is CAPS will review every land use zoning compliance permit for this subdivision. The geotechnical analysis requirement is flagged by both this new condition number 29 as well as the note in the covenants and on the plat. And the geotechnical analysis will prescribe mitigation on a lot by lot basis, and appropriate mitigation will be required as part of the design of individual homes. And that could be things like perhaps building slab on grade or building 1 or 2 feet above existing grade. It all depends on the geotechnical analysis for each lot and what the conclusions are for each lot. So in conclusion, commissioners, we have a pretty simple motion, and that is to approve condition number 29. And again, the text of that is this right here. But I think you can just stick with the motion to approve condition number 29.
Thanks, Tim. Would either Ron or Andy like to say anything?
I think we're good with it. It was kind of a concerted effort. I think we crafted some of it, and Tim helped augment the latter half of it to get some kind of staying power where it would be memorialized, and we're comfortable with it, and Scott, the developer's comfortable with it.
Yes. Good.
Great. Well, thanks so much for allowing us just a little bit more time to get this ironed out. I think this will be a meaningful change that will protect folks down the road. Questions, Josh or Juanita?
I don't have questions. I just a comment. I want to say thanks and strike a note of appreciation for the developers representative, and for Tim from CAPS for all working together to create this. I'm with you, Dave. I think this is going to give people adequate protection in the future who are going to be buying these lots. So I'm appreciative that the work's been done.
I do have a question for you, Tim. So presuming that the geotechnical investigation happens, that in some specific case a mitigation is identified and suggested, how will we ensure that actually happen? How does this align with the building permit process and all of that?
Well, and I'll try to give what I think would be a fairly straightforward example. If on a particular lot it's judged that groundwater is only, say, 4 feet beneath the surface of the ground, that would be an inappropriate place for a basement. So that conclusion would bear out in the home design, where I think with that zoning compliance permit, they would say, oh, in conclusion, per the conclusion of the geotech, we're just going to build slab on grade in this location. I think there's going to be some flexibility. There's going to be some judgment calls, if you will, on this, because, you know, as far as how conservative a builder would be, there might be a difference between, say, no basement or 1 foot above adjacent grade, you know, having the lowest floor 1 foot above adjacent grade, or maybe even 2 feet. And in some places where there's no evidence of groundwater inundation, as I think Andy described last week, closer to the interstate where you have higher and drier ground, they could probably build with full basements or walkout basements without any problem. If they built contrary to the conclusion, or if the permit shows like a basement in an area where there's only a 4 foot depth to groundwater, it would be a stop for the permit. The permit couldn't be processed.
Okay. Thanks. I appreciate that. Juanita, were you trying to say something there earlier?
No, I think you asked it. I was wondering about the enforcement of a covenant, but this is fine. And I'm, like Josh was saying, really happy with the elegant collaboration to address this. Thank you.
Is there any public comment out there on this particular item? Okay, seeing none, I think we're at the point where we could have a motion.
I motion to approve. Oh boy, I'm forgetting the number.
29.
Sorry, Tim. Condition number 29.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? And Juanita's getting off the hook of having to reread that whole thing. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Ron. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you.
Hey, we will return to our regular order of the public hearings, and next in line is the Springer family transfer, and I'll open the public hearing on this, and we'll begin with you, Nick, to provide a staff report.
Thank you very much. Let me go ahead and share my screen here and get the presentation going. Confirm that everyone can see this.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, trying to get my notes up real fast. Sorry, 1 second. There they are. So good afternoon. So this is the Springer family transfer proposal. This is a request by Brock and Carol Springer to use the family transfer exemption to the Montana Subdivision and Platting Act. So first, I'm going to go into the background of the request here. So the location of this request is about a 1/4 mile to the east of US Highway 93 North, near the top of Evero Hill. It is located within the boundaries of the Flathead Reservation. The 2002 Regional Land Use Guide is the growth policy guiding document for this area. It designates this tract as open and resource with a recommended density of 1 dwelling unit per 40 acres. Getting to the existing on-site conditions, the current parcel is 15.04 acres in size. There's one home located on the property. It is occupied by the claimants, Carol and Brock Springer. The address of it is 20864 Coracan Lane. Current density is approximately 1 dwelling unit per 15.04 acres. And the Springers purchased this property in September of 2020 as shown in warranty deed book 1039, page 38. Getting into the proposal itself. So the family transfer proposal would result in the claimant's adult son Ryan receiving tract 2, which is 5.01 acres. The claimant's other adult son William would receive tract 3, which is 5.02 acres. And then the claimants Brock and Carol would retain ownership of the remaining 5.01 acres, and that's proposed as tract 1. This does include the house that they do live in at 20864 Coracan Lane. The family transfer proposal would exceed the recommended density at approximately 1 dwelling per 5.01 acres. And the application states that the all tracts are intended to remain rural residential. This application was sent out for agency comment to both Missoula County agencies and the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes. For the health department, we received a standard comment just citing the need for sanitation review. And then I was able to get comment. It was last minute, so it's not part of the items on Civic Clerk, but we got 2 comments from 2 agencies with the from CSKT. The Planning and Economic Director commented that the property is adjacent to tribal land that has been reserved by the tribes as a wildlife movement corridor that is correlated to the wildlife overpass on Highway 93. She also noted that the property is adjacent to tribal lands that have multiple forest roads that are closed, and just wanted to remind the landowners that you need a tribal permit to recreate on tribal land, and that big game hunting is not permitted on tribal land by non-tribal members. You can obtain a hunting permit for waterfowl and upland game through a recreation permit. And then last, in terms of the Planning and Economic Director's comment, she wanted me to relay that vehicular access to the parcels from Corcoran Lane is only allowed within the platted easement that was shown in the exhibit in the existing site plan conditions. No other access roads through the tribal land is permitted at this time. The other comment received from CSKT is from the Wildlife Management Program. They just responded that grizzly bears have been known to pass through this area in the general vicinity of the project. That being said, they do not believe that this proposal would have any adverse impacts upon the species or their habitats associated with the project. They just recommend using precautions to reduce conflict with grizzly bears. This includes garbage containment and not having small livestock, just to name a few. As with any family transfer request, we check for the proposal for rebuttable presumptions and general evasion criteria point. I'm going to go through any points that were triggered during this review. So general evasion criteria number 2 was the original tract transferred to the claimant within the past years. This is applicable. Brock and Carol Springer purchased the property in September 2020, as shown in warranty deed book 1039, page 38. General evasion criteria point number 14 is the proposed division incompatible with the growth policy. This is also applicable. The parcel is recommended for a density of 1 dwelling unit per 40 acres. The proposed family transfer would further exceed the recommended density at 1 dwelling per 5.01 acres. So next, I'm going to go over the family transfer questions with the claimant. Can I please ask the applicants to state their name for the record?
My name is Brock Robert Springer.
And Carol Ann Springer.
Thank you. So the first question I'm going to ask is, did you buy the property with the intent of dividing it?
No, we did not. We bought the property in order to be closer to our family.
Thank you. Question number 2, do you or your transferees intend to transfer the property within the next year?
No, we do not.
Thank you. Question number 3, have you talked to anyone at the county about going through subdivision review?
No, sir, we have not.
Thanks. Because the recipients are not minors, we would skip question 4 and 5. And then based off of staff analysis, we are recommending approval of the proposed family transfer.
Thank you very much. We're very grateful.
Thank you, Nick. Mr. and Mrs. Springer, do you have a representative here that would like to say anything, or is there anything else that you would like to add at this time?
We do not have representative, but no, this transfer is something that we're really looking forward to. It's an opportunity for us to give something meaningful to our children. As you know, there's quite a crisis with affordable housing going on in Missoula County, and my youngest son is ready to build a home if this goes through. So we picture one single family home on each of the lots.
Thank you. And we might have a few more questions for you in just a second, but before we do, we want to open this up to public comment. Is there any member of the public who would like to comment on this proposed family transfer? Okay, seeing none. And just as a reminder, if folks want to comment at any point for any of our public hearings today, if you're using Microsoft Teams on your computer, please use the raise hand function, which will indicate to me that you want to speak, and I will then call on you. Okay, seeing no public comment, I'll close the public hearing. Questions from the commission?
I just want to remember, Nick, you said, was it the 2002 plan that says that this area is open resource of 1 to 40? Is that correct?
Correct, and that plan is essentially based off of the growth policy conducted in 1975, but they did update it for any area that did not have a growth policy specifically guiding it. So it's slightly outdated, but that is the area, that is the plan that is designated for this area.
And there isn't anything more recent, correct? Because I mean, there's nothing else more recent.
No, there's not. Unfortunately, it is just outside the 2019 land use element. And,
okay. So I'm sorry can you show me, can you go back to that aerial that shows the development in the area and maybe show me where the boundaries of the 2019 plan is?
Yeah, if you want, I actually have the GIS. I can switch to that
thank you.
If that's easier. So I have that fired up here. So this is the property here. Let me just turn on the layers for
thank you.
Land. So 2019 element, I'll zoom out so you can see the boundaries of it. Might take a minute to load.
It's okay.
Yeah, so it kind of ends right as you start to climb Evero Hill, and our subject property is right at the top. So then turning on the 2002 land use guide, it covers this area here, and this 2002 regional land use guide is pretty much for all the rural areas, since those weren't involved with any or don't have their own growth policies. This was the growth policy for those areas now, and it is pretty close to an area that's designated 1 dwelling unit per 10 acres.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what's south of it? Sorry, can you just zoom out a little bit so I can see what's happening south? Or I guess north too. I'm just looking at the development.
So this is the square. So I can turn on the tribal land layer. It is surrounded by tribal owned land. Sorry, wrong layer there. Kind of hard to see with, maybe I'll turn off the other one so we can kind of see the difference here. Apologize for the scrolling.
No, you're doing great. Thank you.
So orange is a tribal owned land, which is different than reservation boundaries.
Great.
Okay. Thanks for walking me through that. That's helpful. And this is a different proposal than was originally kind of drafted a week ago, right?
No,
this is the same proposal.
We have 2 family transfers coming before us, Juanita.
Thank you. Okay.
Yep.
Thought it was differently shaped. Okay.
Mr. Springer, you'd mentioned that the plan is that one of your sons would be building a home. Is the plan eventually for both Ryan and William to build homes on these and to reside on these parcels?
That's correct. Yeah, my youngest son is actively ready to move on this if approved. My oldest son lives in East Missoula, and his daughter just started high school. So it will be several years until he's ready to move on this, but they're both in full agreement that this is what they want to do. 1 single family home on each of the lots, and the southern lot would be the first to be developed, and then down the road tract number 2.
Okay, thank you. Additional questions, Josh or Juanita?
I don't have any questions, just kind of a comment. I think this highlights the need for us to do some long-term land use planning outside of the area that we did the map in, that was finished in 2019. And it also highlights that we need to make sure and follow up on the 2019 work with zoning. So we have real guidance, and guidance that has teeth as well.
Yeah, point well taken. It's unfortunate that we have a 20-year old plan that we're going by here today, and it always pains me if we are moving an area ever farther out of compliance with the plan on the books. But the bottom line question is whether the plan that we have from 2002 is really the plan that is most applicable today. Other questions, comments, motion?
Can you put some motion language up on,
yep.
Nick? Thank you.
Yes, I can.
Thanks a lot. All right, I would move that the request by Carolyn Brock Springer to utilize the family transfer exemption to create and transfer 2 parcels to their sons, Ryan and William, as presented in the exemption application and affidavit, be approved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Springer.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thank
Nick.
you, folks. We're very grateful.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you. Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, of course.
And Nick, you are next at bat again with the Jordan family transfer.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So we're not moving very far here. We're still on US Highway 93 North. But yeah, so this is a request from Jonathan Jordan to use the family transfer exemption to the Montana Subdivision and Platting Act. Once again, I'm going to go into the background first. So the location of this transfer is to the east of US Highway 93 North, approximately 2 miles south of Evero Hill. And again, this is located within the Flathead Reservation boundaries. The 2002 Regional Land Use Guide also designates this area as open and resource with a recommended density of 1 dwelling unit per 40 acres. So the parcel in question is currently 9.23 acres in size. Existing on-site conditions include a mobile home and 1 outbuilding at 5975 Candlewick Lane. Current residential density is 1 dwelling unit per 9.23 acres. Jonathan Jordan received the property via quitclaim deed in December of 2011. And it should be noted too that the claimant Jonathan Jordan does also own the adjacent residence located at 5965 Candlewick Lane. That is the one, and then it'd be the top right corner of the exhibit we see here. Getting into the family transfer proposal itself, the proposal would result in the claimant's spouse, Jamie Jordan, receiving tract B, which is 2.18 acres. The claimant's adult daughter, Amanda, receiving proposed tract C at 2.04 acres. The claimant's adult son, Timothy, receiving tract D, which is 2.18 acres in size. And then the claimant, Jonathan Jordan, would retain ownership of proposed tract A, which is 2.73 acres in size. And this does include the mobile home at 5975 Candlewick Lane. The proposed family transfer would further exceed the current residential density at approximately 1 dwelling unit per 2.3 acres. And the application states that all tracts are intended to remain rural residential. Now getting into HC comment, this application was sent out to Missoula County and the Confederate Salish Kootenai tribes for comment. Health provided their standard comment indicating the need to go through sanitation review. We received comments from 2 CSKT agencies. First, the Planning and Economic Director commented that this area is known for shallow depth to groundwater issues at times. And then the Wildlife Management Program had a similar comment as into our last proposal, indicating that grizzly bears have passed through this area close to the project, but they do not do not anticipate any adverse impacts to the species or habitat if this project were to go through. They do recommend the precautions to reduce conflict with grizzly bears. And as with any family transfer request, we check for rebuttable presumptions and general evasion criteria. I'm going to go through any points that were triggered during my review. So the first was rebuttable presumption number 2. The landowner intends to divide the land for the purpose of gift or sale to the landowner's spouse or minor children. This is applicable. Tract B is proposed to be transferred to the claimant's spouse, Jamie Jordan. Rebuttable presumption number 4. The division appears to be made for the purpose of speculation by the landowner or for resale for the benefit of the landowner by using the grantee as a straw person. This may be indicated if the grantor and or the recipient own tracts of land in Missoula County or is evident that the receiving family members do not intend to reside on the family transferred tracts. Found this to be applicable. The application indicates the place of residence of all the intended family transfer recipients to be in Conroy, Texas. The application and supplemental information provide no clear intent for the recipients to reside on their gifted parcels. Additionally, during this point, Jonathan Jordan owns an adjacent parcel to the proposed family transfer, which is 5965 Candlewick Lane. General evasion criteria point 7b, an overall development plan, which appears equivalent to a subdivision with characteristics such as a common road, utility easements, restrictive covenants, deed restrictions, shared parks and or open space, common marketing or promotional plan. This is applicable. The overall development plan does appear equivalent to a subdivision, evidenced by lot access via a common internal road and overall lot layout. The general evasion criteria point number 14 is the proposed division incompatible with the growth policy. This is applicable. The parcel has a recommended density of 1 dwelling unit per 40 acres. The proposed family transfer would further exceed at 1 dwelling unit per 2.3 acres. And then general evasion criteria point number 19, the information provided by the claimant or their surrounding circumstances indicate that the exemption is being used to evade the MSPA and its regulations. We found that the information and exhibits provided by the claimant show that the proposal for the family transfer exemption does not comply with the requirements established in the subregs for the use of this exemption. And next, I'm going to go through the family transfer questions with the applicant. Can I please have the applicant state the name for the record?
Jonathan Jordan.
Thank you. So question number 1, did you buy the property with the intent of dividing it?
No.
Question number 2, do you or your transferees intend to transfer the property within the next year?
No.
Question number 3, have you talked to anyone at the county about going through subdivision review?
No.
Thank you. And again, since questions 4 and 5 relate to minors and there was no minors receiving it, we will skip those questions. Then based off staff analysis, staff is recommending denial of the proposed family transfer.
Thank you, Nick. Mr. Jordan, or if you have a representative, this is your opportunity if you want to add anything else.
I do not have a representative. I don't know. I've never used this before, and please let me know if I'm getting through.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yep, you're fine.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to note, I understand what they're saying. I have lived on and off that property. I follow my work. I'm a police officer. I was up there. I had to come down here. The work's better. Getting close to retirement, and that's kind of like our overall plan. I'm native Montanan. I grew up in Florence, spent most of my life there. I moved to that particular piece of property in 1994 when me and my wife got married. And that whole property, even the one that I do currently own next door, is my wife's family's property. And her father passed away. We ended up obtaining the one piece of property, and now her mother currently resides with us. She's 77 years old. And the whole thing is the two kids that we were looking at, it's hard to see because I can't see myself talk. I don't know if I'm looking at the camera or not. I apologize.
Oh, you're fine.
It keeps disappearing. the two children that we are looking at is my oldest son. He's fixing to be married in May, and he was born in Missoula. He was raised on that property along with my daughter also. I spent most of my young adulthood on that property, as did my wife. The reason, and if this is a deal breaker, then we could cut it out too, is I read that, and what he spoke of is one of the piece that was being that we were planning on doing to my wife is we figured since we were doing this, let's just do that, because our youngest is 16. Obviously, for reasons we're not going to give a 16-year-old property, and at a later date we would transfer it to them, and that was the whole reason for that. But I mean, if that's a deal breaker, I mean, we can just cut that out right now. But that's kind of our story. I mean, we're getting close to retirement and looking excited to be coming home, and hopefully with the other, I know my daughter's on board. She wants to come home. My son, he's looking for opportunities. His fiance is fixing to graduate pharmacy school here in the spring. They're looking for, opportunities, and we're just, to be honest, I don't like Texas. It's just where the work is, and I would give anything to be home, but unfortunately I have to be here until then.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. And we'll likely have a few additional questions for you here in a second. But before we do, is there any public comment on this proposed family transfer? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Questions from Commissioner Slotnick or Vero?
So the one question I had, Mr. Jordan, you answered, which was why cut off a parcel for your wife? But it sounds like the idea was to create a parcel for your daughter after she's old enough.
That is correct, sir.
And so as far as your other children, Mr. Jordan, so how soon do you think it might be before Timothy, Amanda, or Jonathan would be occupying these parcels?
It's going to be, for me, it's probably, actually, I was planning on, I'm taking 3 weeks in July, and I'm actually coming up in July and planning on completely renovating the house that's there. But for me, I've got about 6-7 years before I'm eligible to retire. I'm hoping that I can make it sooner, but that's not really up to me. But we'll see how things go. As for my son, it depends on where his wife plans on working. Hopefully they're looking up there. But she's still in pharmacy school, so it probably won't be until by the end of summer before they make a decision whether or not they're coming up. I know my daughter will be coming when I come, so it gives us plenty of time to get the land together. Because I'll tell you what, I dug that septic system, drain field and everything. That ground up there is nothing but pure rock, and I dug it myself. And you need time to put a place up. I put that place there myself. It was vacant land, and I don't want to let it go, and I don't want any of it to let it go. I just want my kids to have their own little piece of where they're from, their home. So hopefully relatively soon, to answer your question. I'm sorry, I got kind of sidetracked.
That's okay. And where I'm coming from in that question is, and it comes from a place of having seen this happen before, is when it's years or decades out, the likelihood that a child will then come to actually reside on the property is ever more remote, and we've seen instances where properties have just been flipped and it never went into the actual possession of the claimant for a residential home for themselves. So,
No, I understand.
Nick, can you bring up the schematic again of the map, just to put this in geographic perspective for us?
Yep. Let me go ahead and switch over. I have that one pulled up here. So I'll just zoom out first.
And I can't see this map, so I don't know what's going on. So I don't know if I'm supposed to.
No worries. Dave, do you want the growth policy document on there, or?
No, I think it's clear that all of this was within the same area. I'm getting, yeah, that's better. I was trying to get a sense of the pattern of development in this area.
Yeah, it is sandwiched between 93 and railroad easement. So it's not adjacent to open lands, is what I'm trying to say. There is a barrier on each side.
Got it. Juanita, were you trying to say something earlier?
No, this is great. I was just maybe, Nick, can you zoom out a little bit? Like what?
Yep.
Right. Okay. Whoa. Sorry. I wish I could do this myself. Can you zoom in a little bit? You're doing great. There. Okay. And so directly to the south is what's the development pattern there for those?
Let's see. I can check the acreage here.
Okay, I see him.
Yeah. So this is 5.6, or I guess 5. Department of Revenue calls it 5. Then if we look to the north, it's a bigger chunk at 80 acres. And this is the parcel in question.
What do we have going on there in that 80-acre parcel? There's quite a few structures. Are those all associated with the same? Maybe zoom in just a little.
Yeah,
bit.
And I can change to a different layer. It'll be a current imagery. It might help out. It is.
I think to the north is all tribal.
Yep.
Allocated.
So it's just a tribal parcel with multiple dwellings on it, it appears, or.
We can turn on the tribal and land layers where here just to verify where we're. Yep. So it is. This is our parcel in question, and then tribal and land. I can zoom out here for context of tribal land.
Okay, thank you.
And I guess what I'm thinking is like, I agree. I'm hesitant to, approve something that's not in compliance, but then looking at where this is between those two major, the railroad and the highway, it's super rocky soil that isn't really, it's not farmland, it's not timber, there's not a lot of wildlife activity. So I'm just kind of mulling this over. And
there's bears.
Yeah, I bet there are some bears in there.
Well, there are bears that wander through and will get to garbage cans and gardens, but
come through the window once.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Gotta keep them closed.
Well, it is also good to know that you have some historic connection to this land, Mr. Jordan, as opposed to what I had at first wondered if it was a Texas speculator here who is looking to turn a quick buck on these parcels.
No, I'm actually a Falcon, so I'm Florence Falcon. I can't help.
Florence Falcon.
Can you put the schematic back on the Nick? Sorry.
Yep. No, you're good. Here we go.
Okay, well, I'm going to move that the request by Jonathan Jordan to utilize the family transfer exemption as presented in the exemption application affidavit be approved. Which is different than the staff.
Yeah, I just realized that on there, so that probably does not help you out at all having that up there. But you can just change the words, I guess, at the end.
Okay, I'll reread this. My motion is that the request by Jonathan Jordan to utilize a family transfer exemption to create and transfer 3 parcels to his son, Can we, is that, now I'm hung up on this spouse parcel.
Yeah, one, I just want to,
I can go back to the proposed if you want
So-
here, so we can.
Okay,
before-
I'm gonna hold it. I'm not,
Yeah,
we're
can
gonna
I
keep
just want
discussing.
to toss out a thought first.
Yeah.
Dave, sorry, I broke protocol here.
No, jump right in, Josh, if you
Thank-
have some other thoughts.
Thanks. So I appreciate a lot what Mr. Jordan said when he said, I get, I'm paraphrasing, that he understands the concerns around family transfer, giving land to a spouse, and that looks like subdivision. And he said we could take care of that right now if we want to. I don't know if that's possible, Nick. Is there a way to condition this or change it? I would be okay with this if it were not for the division of land to the spouse, which seems not consistent with the law. And then I would imagine a handful of years go by and the minor child is of age, and at that point they could go through family transfer again and give a piece to her, to the youngest daughter.
I guess so. So two questions. First, the legal question. Once a property is divided in this way, utilizing a family transfer, could it be,
Good question.
could any of these parcels be further divided by the owner through a family transfer? So let's begin with that question, either for Nick or John Hart.
So I do know that is an evasion criteria point, so that would be triggered during any review. To my knowledge, I will defer to John, but I don't think that prohibitively restricts you from applying, though. But it definitely would be triggered during review.
John Hart.
Yeah, commissioners, there wouldn't be anything illegal about Mr. Jordan coming back in the future and making a request to transfer to his daughter, who's, by that time will be an adult.
Oh, so we could do that.
We could do that, and he would still retain the option of creating that additional tract for his daughter in the future.
So we just
So
remove that boundary line, or what would?
Well, so let me just jump in here. So the second question, I guess, since the option would remain open in the future to come back before us for a subsequent family transfer, if we were contemplating, or if the applicant was amenable to removing the spousal tract here, what would the process be to do so? Could that be affected today, or would we need to essentially put this on hold, have a revised application submitted that would remove that, and then come back?
I believe we need a revised application, but I'll defer to John again on that one.
John?
Yeah, I was going to suggest that maybe we don't need a revised application, but I would I'm not a planner, and so I don't want to say that if that isn't acceptable to planning department protocol. But what I think you could do, or what I would propose that you do, is make a motion that you approve the family transfer by Mr. Jordan of the parcel, and
It'd be tract D and C.
enough. Is it B and C? You could approve of the
D and C.
D and C of D and C today, and then I think the long and short of that would be then the parcel that has his existing home on it, would still be merged with that parcel B that was proposed to go to his spouse. And, his Montana Northwest company then would submit a certificate of survey that memorializes only the creation of 2 new tracts and not 3. I think we could do that, but I'm certainly willing to listen to why that would be a bad idea.
Mr. Jordan, would something of that nature be acceptable? I think that would give the commission some greater confidence that that this tract is not inadvertently going to slip into some other ownership, and it retains your options down the road to come back before us at whatever point in time seems appropriate to request a family transfer for your other child.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So with that in mind, either Josh or Juanita, would you like to make a motion to that effect?
I just want to make sure. Oh, go ahead. You have it, Josh?
I was going to give it a shot, but I was going to say something like we would approve the family transfer for tracks D and C. Does that cover it?
Does that capture it?
I
John?
think so. Or John, you want to confirm?
Yeah, that sounds fine. And let's see, just for the record, C is the track that's proposed to go to Amanda Jordan, and then D is to go to Timothy Jordan. So that just further clarifies it.
What about tract A?
Tract A is the remainder track that was to be to remain in Jonathan's ownership. So it's the original parent parcel.
Okay, got it. Okay.
I will second that, Josh. Or go ahead, just repeat it again for everyone.
Yeah, I would move we approve the family transfer for tracks D and C.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thanks for your cooperation, Mr. Jordan.
Thank you very much. I appreciate everything you guys do. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, and hopefully you'll be able to get back to Montana soon.
Oh, you have no idea how long
we
been waiting.
We got an in with the sheriff's office if you need a job. So
that's where I got laid off.
Oh,
why I'm down here.
Hopefully you have electricity down there.
We lost it for a couple hours.
Yeah.
But other than that, it wasn't too bad for us. So, but other places, I got lots of friends that were all their pipes bust. They don't winterize down here the way we do up there. So it was horrible. So I appreciate you all very much. Thank you.
You bet.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Nick, for helping us through that. Thank you, John Hart.
Nick.
And our final public hearing of the day is Meadow Heights Creek Plat Amendment. And Bailey, would you like to introduce this for us?
Yes, I will. So
and Bailey, you're a little bit faint. Sound.
Oh. Okay. Is that better if I hold it? If I hold it closer?
Yes.
That's better. You need to work on those cheapskates
I know.
at Caps to get you some decent equipment there.
I should. Well, and then some days it works great and some days it doesn't. So I don't know anymore. I'll just hold it. It's all good.
That's good.
Okay. So hopefully you guys can see my screen, my PowerPoint. Okay. So this is a request for the Meadow Heights of Grant Creek final plat adjustment. The property is at 6037 Glen Eagle Way, and the applicants are Richard and Marilyn Reap and Michael and Tammy Dahlstrom. Make sure I'm on the right screen to go. So here is the property location, and I will turn on my laser pointer here so that way you guys can see it. So here's the property location. So here's the Reserve and I-90 interchange down here. And so we're headed up towards Snowball. And this is the Glen Eagle Way that comes out here off of Grant Creek. So the project request is to modify the location of a private access and public utility easement. It's shown on Lot 1 of Meadow Heights of Grant Creek, but it actually provides access to Lot 2 of Meadows of Grant Creek subdivision, which is a completely different subdivision. They are proposing to delete the existing driveway easement and provide a new easement just north of the current location of the existing easement. So this is the plat, and I did put a north arrow on it for you guys here. So north is this direction. What's inside this red box is the easement that we are talking about, that we are looking at today. So So just some project notes going over. So Meadow Heights of Grant Creek was a 4-lot minor subdivision approved October 6, 1993. It was final platted with the Meadows of Grant Creek subdivision at the same time on December of 1993. And that was because both subdivisions were approved with the same 20 conditions of approval. The new driveway will actually access, as I said, Lot 2 in Meadows of Grant Creek, and that home is currently under construction, and that's at 6055 Glen Eagle Way. So the existing driveway to Lot 2 was constructed in July of 2019 as part of the approved building permit through the city of Missoula for that home currently under construction on Lot 2. And basically, it wasn't until after construction that the new driveway was found to be outside of that platted easement that was shown on the face of the plat. So the current owners of Lot 1 have no objections to the new location, but want to be assured that the old easement location is removed from the plat, and therefore it just cleans everything up. So we reviewed the request per our subdivision regulations. We have a section 6.7 for adjustments to filed plats and related documents. There is a condition 17 of the original subdivision approval that identifies these no improvement zones on Lot 1 that are shown on the face of the plat, and the proposed easement is located outside of that. So we reviewed it for all the criteria. It appears to meet all of the criteria. I can go into further detail of each one. There's 9 of them off the top of my head, I believe. We did notify advisory agencies. We placed a legal in the Missoulian as well, and I've had no comments received on the project to date. So we are recommending approval of the plat adjustment with 2 recommended conditions of approval. One is that there's a draft proposed agreement for the easement and road maintenance for the new driveway location, and so to make sure that that easement agreement be recorded with the clerk and recorder. And then we also have a standard requirement that any recorded documents that are modified by this adjustment have to get filed within 60 days. And mainly we want a revised plat exhibit and certification that shows the new easement location in the correct spot. So, and so I have a motion, and I can go back to the plat if that helps you look at that area, or I'm happy to answer questions. And I know the applicant's representatives are on the line as well.
Yeah, I'd like to see the visual while the applicant's representatives are speaking. Or I'm
Okay.
assuming, is it?
Dave,
Yeah,
you're muted too.
Yeah, okay, I was muted there. Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, yeah, before the applicant's representative speaks, would the applicant is the applicant present and would like to say anything, or is the applicant's representative of the mind to share anything with us?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. My name is Vic Valgenti. I'm representing my very good old friends from more than 60 years ago, and we're sitting here in their home that's where I lived that long ago. In any event, I appreciate, and my clients appreciate the work done on this project, particularly by Bailey and the other CAPS planners, Tim Worley and Jenny Dixon, that I had the privilege of working with earlier. I think Bailey presented the factual situation. I won't burden you with further on that. We're certainly happy with the outcome, and I believe there will be some further work to get the revised plat exhibit prepared for both the conveyancing agreement of the easement and the actual plat adjustment itself. With that, again, on behalf of my friends and clients and myself, I appreciate the opportunity to be here today and the assistance of the CAPS representatives. And we, of course, are happy with the motion and the recommendation of the of Bailey. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Is there any public comment on this proposal? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Questions or comments from the commission?
So Bailey, I just want to make sure I understand this right. We're moving the driveway to where it's appropriate and getting rid of allowing it to be where it wouldn't be appropriate.
Yeah, it's basically getting moved. I don't have it as I could pull it up. I don't have it as one of my slides.
Oh,
I almost put it in, but it's basically goes over here, and there's kind of a little knoll or a hill, and it kind of, instead of going over the hill, it's going kind of around it. So it's not getting into any of these no improvement. This is one no improvement area is over here, and the other one is right here, kind of in this area. So it's basically going just over here instead.
So it's not going to affect anybody but the folks who are building a house there.
Yep, it's just these property, this lot 1. So it'll still be on there. It'll just be moved a little bit, and its access. So lot 2 is right over here, is where it's accessing.
Thank you.
Thanks.
No, I don't have any questions. So motion to approve the amendment to Meadow Heights of Grant Creek final plat with the recommended conditions of approval as detailed in the staff report.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thanks, Bailey.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Commissioner.
Thanks, Mr. Valgenti.
Commissioner,
John Hart.
Let me just make a point here, because I want you guys to know that we're privileged to have Vic Valgenti here with us. You guys probably don't know who he is. Vic is on the executive committee of the wise old elders of the Missoula Bar. He's been a practicing lawyer in this town since 1963. And the stories about Vic are legendary. I've heard a lot of judges talk about Vic, and I had an opportunity to talk with him on the phone a couple times last spring, and it was really a pleasure for me. He's an example of a great public servant and a great member of the bar, and we're really privileged to have him on this call this afternoon. And I just wanted to point that out to everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you for doing that.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
See, I embarrassed him too a little bit.
Well, it's an honor to have you with us today, Vic.
Yes,
Thank
indeed.
you. All right. With that, any other business to come before the commission today? Well, seeing none, at 3:04 p.m., we will be adjourned.
All right.
Wow.
Thanks, everybody.
Well done.
All right. Goodbye.
Thanks.